Welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes with DailyStraits.com. I am your host, June Robley. Our guest today is Peter Petroulas, a seasoned restaurateur with over 25 years of experience in the hospitality industry. He was previously the owner of GPO Grand stable of restaurants located at 1 Martin Place, Sydney. During his tenure, Peter oversaw the operations of several successful dining establishments that became popular hotspots in the city's food scene. After leaving GPO Grand, Peter recently founded WhizButler, a unique digital restaurant booking system that helps restaurant owners streamline their operations and enhance their customers' experiences. With his extensive knowledge of the industry, Peter has been able to develop innovative solutions that has revolutionized the way restaurants operate. My chat with Peter today is going to be around his new venture and more on restaurant booking. So without further ado, let's invite Peter to the show. Hi, Peter. How are you?
Good, thanks, June. Greatly appreciate to be on your show.
Thank you so much for that. So let's dive right straight into the questions. So you're a restaurant guy, and then you quit your job, and then you decided to do something on the tech spectrum, but with your own experience. So exactly, like, tell us in not too many words, what inspired you to start WhizButler?
It's an understanding of the problems that all restaurants faced that try to take care of their dine-in customers. And for 20 years, researchers and other platforms have tried to solve those problems, and they hadn't. So then I thought I'd put my foot in it as well and see if I could solve those problems. And those problems really stem from booking systems from a customer perspective. They look amazing because you can go there, say, can I have a table, say it's 7:30 on Saturday night, and you either get the booking or you don't get the booking. And they look amazing. But from a restaurant perspective, they're actually very clumsy and require a lot of manual intervention behind the scenes. So they're not really helping the restaurant. Just to give a couple of examples why I say they're clumsy, is firstly, they're not customer centric. So therefore, when you ask for a table at 7:30, the system doesn't know who you are. You could be a regular person. You always like to sit on table 10. So if you call somebody and talk to them, they will know and you will have the comfort, they will put you on your favorite table. But when you go on a system, the system doesn't know who you are. So therefore, it can allocate you anywhere. So therefore, you don't have an incentive to actually use the system. You'd still potentially prefer to call. Also, when the system does the allocation, every time a booking comes in, it allocates it. And then the next one comes in and it allocates it. So in effect, the allocation process is not optimized. And behind the scenes, again, each day the restaurant staff would have to go in, look at where the bookings have been placed by the system and rearrange them manually. So it becomes a huge manual process that is not customer centric. And as I said, other people have tried to solve it. And then I sort of put my hat in the ring and tried to solve it myself.
So what is yours? How's yours different from the other?
The other systems require a restaurant to add in all its tables, and then which tables can be pushed together or joined together to make a bigger table, which they call table combinations. So every other system requires the restaurant to input tables and table combinations. So when a person requests a booking, then the algorithm looks to find an appropriate table or table combination to put them on, which sounds very simple and it sounds correct, but it's actually incorrect, because what a restaurant actually needs to manage is its space, not its tables or table combinations, because the space determines what you can do with those tables. So you need to be able to manage the space as the first thing. And again, just to give a silly example, but a very relative one, if you have 5 tables of 2 and you're required to have spaces or gaps in between the 5 tables of 2 for privacy, but then when you get a booking for 10, you push them together. So once you push them together, all the gaps that were between the tables are now at the end. If they're at the end, well, why can't the restaurant bring in an extra table, and then they can actually increase their revenue because they've got an extra table? So you can see space is what defines optimizing a restaurant's revenue, not tables and table combinations.
So if somebody gets the app, they download the app. Is it on the App Store and the Android?
It's not in the App Store, it's a web app. So they would need to log in. But it's a lot easier than being an app, because by being a web app, any updates we make, they automatically get on their system instantaneously without needing to download it. So for a commercial enterprise, I suggest it's better to be a web app than a native app from the App Store.
So so how do they actually, like with the current headwinds that the restaurants are facing, how can they increase their revenue with your app? So okay, say like I go to on the internet, I log on to WhizButler, I put in my details, I say I want to go to this Italian restaurant in Leichhardt.
Yep.
Okay, at 7:30 on exact day. Okay, it's going to be a pretty busy day on that day. So, and then what happens next? So on the back end with the restaurants, how do they get the booking and they allocate the table for me?
Well, the first thing we do is, with the restaurant, we need to get the dimensions of the restaurant. Its length, its width, where the bar is, where the front door is, where the exit is, where the toilets are, if there's any columns in between. So we know the full size of the space. Then we need the measurements of all the tables and the chairs. And if the different size tables, round tables, whatever they are. So then with our algorithm, it'll go through, and if a booking request comes in from yourself, then it'll go through and it'll try to place the table in the most efficient space within the space. So it's not looking for a table combination. It'll actually place the table inside the space. And then by doing that, it will then actually draw what it's actually done on the screen. So when the restaurant staff walk in, they can see where the table has been placed on their floor plan, so they can set up for service. The second and very important thing our system does is it does not make these permanent allocations each time, because if you make a permanent allocation, you don't know what the next booking request you will receive, or the next, or the next, or the next, because all the booking requests don't come in at the same time. So because they don't come in and you don't know what the next one is, then what we do, every time the system receives a booking request, it actually unseats all the previous bookings that have been received, adds it together with the last booking request, then it knows everybody, and because it's starting afresh, it can actually see, in your case, June, your booking. They can see from their database and their CRM system that you're a regular, that you like sitting on table number one. Your party size will fit on table number one. It will put you on table number one. So it does two things in that process. First, it manages space. Secondly, it dynamically reallocates each and every booking as when the last booking is received. So at any point in time, then the system has done the allocation with full knowledge.
Interesting. So, does this mean that you partner with the restaurants? Because
Yes.
Okay. So this is not a consumer app; it's an app more for the restaurants, right?
Correct. But the consumer gets the benefit because after we partner with the restaurant and they put our widget on their website, so you go to their website and make a booking, you get those benefits as a consumer, because now you know that the restaurant will sit you on your favorite table. You know that there will be no surprise. So there's no need for you to actually call to get that personalized service.
Wow, interesting. So what about restaurants where they have tables that are, glued to the floor? Some of the restaurants, the old restaurants, like those Italian restaurants, right? The furnitures are pretty much set. So can you partner with those guys, or how do you work with those kind of restaurants?
Well, there's a couple of things there. And I think this is where restaurants need to think about the future rather than the past. And, some of the headwinds that we all know about is inflation is increasing, and inflation is across the board. So it's not isolated to one item. So it impacts your fish price, your meat price, your veggie price, your gas, your electricity. Every single cost is there. So you then look at it and say, well, I've got to put my prices up. But if your customers are going through the same thing, then all of their rent or their mortgage is going up, their foodstuffs is going up, the cost of clothing, so they have less money to spend. So restaurants can't just keep pushing the price up. So they've got to find ways of doing things better. And in doing things better, which is, I guess, where we're coming from a revenue perspective, is you can turn around and start looking at your furniture. So even if you have furniture that doesn't move, you may have a private booth and everybody wants to sit on that private booth. You may have another table that's right next to the toilet and, that's not a favorite table. So in trying to manage the restaurant, you do what hotels do. And what happens to a hotel? If you want to go to a hotel that's got a beautiful view over the harbour, then you will pay more for that room than if it's a room that's actually facing the back of the hotel, which is the laneway. So now restaurants can turn around and say, okay, if you want my private booth, or if you want my table, which has got a beautiful view, well, maybe I can charge you an extra 10%, or maybe I can charge you an extra $10 per person, which people who want that will pay for it. And then the person who's just wants the quality of the food and is not too fussed about the occasion, because it's not a special occasion, maybe they're happy to take the table that's sort of next to the kitchen, in which case they can get a discount. So now that process of being able to differentiate your product within a restaurant is called yield management. And now, if you do that yield management, you can now start doing what airlines do, what hotels do, what many other industries do, which takes the restaurant into a different playing field, because now they can actually enhance and generate more revenue than what they could have otherwise.
Okay, awesome. So, okay, tell me, how many restaurants have you partnered with?
At the moment, we were sort of focusing on building our system, which we've done, and we're there with quite a number of restaurants as we've built the system. We're only going now through that scale-up process. And I guess what we've also done, because we were building quite a large system, it starts with the booking system. And then because you can automate the booking system, you can then look at automating the entire restaurant process. So by automating the whole restaurant process, I mean, you've just made a booking, you're comfortable that you've been put on your favorite table, or the restaurant's allowed you to select your favorite table. You can plan your occasion, because you can say, I'd like a nice bucket with some champagne on it because it happens to be my anniversary or my special birthday. You can do that. Then the restaurant sends you a confirmation email. Once you get your confirmation email through our system, which is all restaurant branded, it's not WhizButler branded, then you have the ability to invite your guests. And when you invite your guests, then you can pay for everybody, or they can order themselves. So now you have the ability to pre-order before you even get to the restaurant.
Okay, but how many businesses have you partnered with so far?
So far, we've partnered with 20, and we're currently onboarding another 10. And it's the start of our scale-up process. And with the new businesses that are coming on board, they're not only taking our booking system, they're also taking the ordering system and our point of sale system. So what we've done with all of those systems is I've created what I call a blended system, because it's not a matter of an integration where one system asks for some information and the other system gives it to it. And it's all sort of not 100% automated, because it requires manual intervention. And that's why I guess I call it a blended system, because you can order through your booking system. You can make a reservation through the ordering system. So it's all quite blended and quite fluid.
Awesome. So did you do a pilot project with any of the restaurants before you went all in? Like compare, before and after the revenue with WhizButler? So how much is the increase in revenue? Like 100%?
What we find, on a busy service, because if it's a quiet service and you only have one booking and one person, well, any system does that, and there's nothing you can maximize. But if you talk about a busy service on a Friday night, just through the increased capacity, because we're managing space and we're managing space dynamically, they can easily achieve 50% more revenue because they can easily achieve 50% more bookings.
Okay. So basically, what is the okay, for now, challenging times, a lot of people are not spending money on dining, blah blah blah. So how does that work with the WhizButler system? Are you helping with the restaurants in any way or manner to?
If you again go back to the booking system, our booking system completely automates the reservation process. So therefore, there's no need for a restaurant to have any reservation staff. So with the reservation staff, they can get them to focus on the floor to do things and be more customer centric and more on customer service rather than actually taking the call. Or alternatively, during a service, when the staff are actually busy running around taking care of customers, there's no need to answer the telephone because the system will do that. And, we've got a number of restaurants who use our system who actually do not give out a telephone number for people to call up to make a reservation because there's no need to.
Awesome. So what is it in for WhizButler? Like basically, how do you make money out of this app? You obviously don't charge the customer; it's free for the customer. But what is the revenue share with the restaurants? So how do you work with that?
We're very simple. It's basically $99 per month as a subscription fee, and then we charge a very small 5 cents per customer that they take care of in the restaurant. So even if they're selling a cup of coffee at $4 and they share 5 cents with us, it's still affordable. Let alone if you're talking about a restaurant where it's $100 per head as an average spend that they have, them paying us 5 cents per customer to manage their reservations and to manage their space and to provide them with dynamic floor plans, I think is a very worthwhile investment on their behalf.
So who goes into the restaurant and take the measurement of the tables and the space? Does the restaurant give you all that? Because it's a bit of a cumbersome thing to do all this, the restaurant, the table to actually do all that. Do you face resistance with the restaurants when you mention all this to them?
Actually, we don't. Most restaurants would have gone through a council approval process. So they actually have a floor plan to scale. So all they need to do is send that to us. And then we just load it into the system and they're up and running very quickly. So it's actually a lot simpler than what it sounds.
Okay, so once you get that and then you get the floor plan, you maximize the plan, do you actually go to the restaurant and tell them how to rearrange the furniture and all the space and stuff?
What we do is we load the system in with their floor plan and the dimensions, as you say. We then have a discussion with them. And the discussion will potentially take 2 or 3 hours, where we then build in all the rules that they would like in their restaurant. Because if they don't like to take big bookings in one part of the restaurant, that's fine. If they want to, to rearrange tables in a particular way because that's the way they like to operate their restaurant, we're happy with that as well. So what we do during that process is we use their knowledge on how they want to operate their restaurant based on their strategy. So we don't tell them how they should rearrange the tables. We just need rules off them as to the way they like to do things. Then we put those rules into the system, and then after that, they don't have to do anything else. So it's a quick, simple process that lasts for a very long time because it's all automated.
Okay, so the 2 to 3 hours thing, your team goes in for free of charge, or is it part of the $99 thing?
It's free of charge.
Oh, free of charge. Okay.
So we do that because then we get our ongoing revenue. And as I said, we're happy with 5 cents per customer of that ongoing revenue.
So how do you see the future of restaurants? Do you see that space management becoming a part of the business?
I think that is the only option. I know it sounds very confident, but the reason I say that is if you look at everything else in life, in retail, everything is about how many meters you have and how you manage those meters. And it's all to do with optimization of that space. And now I think as hospitality is moving forward, we're getting more automation. And I don't know if you've come across little things like, robotic waiters, which bring food to the table and do things like that. Yes. They need to be managed based on space. They need to know where the table is. They need to know a path of travel. So if you're going to have flexibility in maximizing your revenue, you've got to have the ability to tell these little robots that you've changed where the table is. So you can only do that with space management. You cannot do that with what all the other systems have, which is tables and table combinations.
So these restaurants, the 20 ones that you have partnered with, are they like modern restaurants? Because the restaurants in my area,
yes,
they're old restaurants, and the fittings in the restaurants are very old, and it's also, it's glued to the floor.
Yes.
So do you have tough conversations like, okay, you know what, I think you need to spend X amount to actually, maybe make this movable furnitures? Do you have tough conversations like that? And
look, you're right. With the restaurants we're in at the moment, a significant part of their furniture is movable. Okay, because that's how you'll maximize it. Our system still works even if the furniture is not movable, because we unseat everybody and reseat everybody every time we get a new booking. So you will always optimize even your fixed furniture. But coincidentally, of the restaurants, the 20 restaurants we have, at least 10 of them have actually since changed their tabletops and their furniture since we've put the system in, because they've seen the benefits of it, and they haven't stayed fixed to their old ways.
Okay. So tell me about the business, WhizButler. So is it just you, or do you have a co-founder? What's the business demographic like, and how many people are, like, where is the tech coming from? Is it all built in New South Wales? I mean, I believe you're in Sydney, right?
Correct. So we're in Sydney. That's where our head office is. As far as, I guess, the core team is concerned, there's myself, there's my spouse as a co-founder, because she was working in the business with me as well, and our CTO is a third sort of core person in that process. Then we used to have our full team based in Sydney. Now it's actually sort of dispersed. We've got a couple of people working in London, a couple of people working in the Philippines, and also a few people in the Philippines, a few people in Nepal. So we're a team of 20 people at the moment, as we look to continue to expand and grow and to scale up, because we've created the software, we've tested it over the last 3 years. So it's not as if it's something that's been created 3 weeks ago, and we're just getting ready to scale it up in a significant way.
So how long has it been around, like WhizButler?
The restaurants have been using it for just over 3 years, and they've been our test restaurants. Because we were entering a very competitive market space, if I can call it that, we didn't want to get sidetracked by restaurants sort of telling us, I want this feature or that feature or the other feature. So we didn't want too many restaurants on our platform while we were still building it. That's why it's not an excess amount of restaurants at the moment, because we also had very fixed ideas as to what we wanted. We've lodged over 20 patents. We've received our first patent from the USA. The others are still pending. So what we've done here obviously is quite innovative, otherwise we wouldn't have received a patent.
So this is fully funded by you and fully funded by you, or do you have external funding? Are you looking for external funding?
For scaling, we'll start looking for it. We're now beginning to look for external funding. Up until now, it's sort of been internally funded by myself.
So it looks like it doesn't have any competitors. Am I right to say this?
Look, there's a lot of competitors in that restaurant space, but it has zero competitors in space management, as far as the booking is concerned, and it has zero competitors as far as a completely automated entire restaurant solution.
So what's the plan now? So see the web app, are you looking for a phone, making it into a mobile app? Is there a plan to go there?
Look, there's no plan to go there because our app is really accessed by the restaurant, and then it's really just a book now button that the customer sees.
Oh.
So there's no necessity to have a native app or mobile app separate to our web app.
Okay, so it's the restaurant that does the. I mean, this is more for the restaurant because you've been a restaurateur for many years, so you know the pain points from how the restaurants. Okay.
And it was those pain points that I'm addressing, and coincidentally, those pain points have been known for years before me, but no one's been able to solve them.
So how does WhizButler system, okay, you've already answered this cost reductions and savings for the restaurants through the office space, but I was just wondering, right, do you face any resistance from the restaurants from signing up to anything that they might, not want to sign up?
At the moment, as I said, we really haven't gone out to the marketplace, but for the few restaurants we've spoken, it is new, it is innovative, and they're sort of still in their lane of doing things the way they've always done them. And I think that is a huge disadvantage for them if they continue to think that way. And I think that has to change because what happened with the service station? Many years ago, you used to go to a service station and you'd pull up and someone would say, how much petrol would you like? And they'd clean your windscreen and they'd pump up your tires and they'd check your oil and they'll do all of these things. But labour cost is too high. So now, if you don't know how to put petrol in your car, well, your car's going to stop and that's it. If you go to a supermarket, what happened in the supermarket? You used to have all these checkout queues and people were there and they did all of those things. And now you're moving away because labour cost is too high and they're trying to keep the price of the product down. So now it's self-service and you're sort of checking out your own groceries at the supermarket. And many other businesses are doing that. So they're not forced to push up the prices. And restaurants will have to adopt automation because they can't continue pushing up prices because people won't afford it. So the only pushback we've had to date from the few people we've spoken to is an initial reaction saying, but I do things this way. And they've just got to get out of that lane because if they don't, for my humble opinion, they won't have a restaurant in the future because their cost structure will be too high and they won't be able to cope.
Okay, finally, right, can you give me maybe an overview of where you want to take this venture of yours? So now you're in Sydney and you're looking for the next, scaling up, but what about plans, the expansion? Are you only in Sydney at the moment or?
No, we've got restaurants in Melbourne, we've got restaurants up the Central Coast, and they're quite large restaurants. So we're not just Sydney-centric because it's cloud-based software, which really doesn't matter where the person is. And the way we built the software, it takes time zones into account all fine.
So, but how do you want to expand this? Like, what's maybe a year from now? What do you see? Like, how do you want to move forward?
A year from now, I think we would have, at least 500 restaurants on the platform. And then I think the benefit is that pushback that we said about restaurants being comfortable doing what they're doing because that's what they know, when they see their next door neighbour doing something different, and when they see their next door neighbour being successful doing something different, they will change their mind.
So basically, this app will basically make the phone, where we call and book for tables, a thing of the past, right?
100%. And you and every customer will have comfort that when you make that online booking, that you are getting that same personalized experience as if you were calling somebody.
Okay, and not have the fact that you go there, turn up, and that, oh, I didn't get your reservation. That will not be an issue anymore, right?
Well, hopefully it isn't an issue now with the other systems, other than the fact with the other systems they're clumsy and they can't optimize. But with our system, I mean, even now, what it does, you make a booking, it instantaneously gives you a confirmation. Instantaneously, it gives you a link so you can put it on your calendar and you don't forget it, and, you know, you invite your friends and do all of those things. And then again, you know, you get a reminder 2 days before your event. And if you don't respond to it, you'll get another reminder, you know, the day before. So it's very hard to be in a situation where you turn up and they don't have your booking.
Okay, great. It's great speaking to you. So, all right, that's all the time that we have today. We have just been speaking to Peter Petroulas of WhizButler. Thank you, Peter, for joining us today.
Thank you for your time. Great to be with you.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to another episode of 30 Minutes with dailystraits.com. If you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe to it and give us a like in all our social networks. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.